First, after just 44 tumultuous days as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, embattled Tory leader Liz Truss stepped out of Downing Street and stepped down as Prime Minister.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected.
Truss's resignation comes after last month's disastrous mini-budget, which sent the British economy into a tailspin. For more on the wild politics of Westminster, the CBC's Abby Guhathasan is in London.
Vashi, Liz Truss said she was a fighter, not a quitter, but that was yesterday. Today, the Prime Minister making another U-turn and stepping down from her post after weeks of turmoil that saw the pound crash, mortgage rates rise, and Truss fire 2 of her cabinet members within a week. She then brought in centrists like Jeremy Hunt to turn the ship around, but it wasn't enough. The Conservatives now say they'll select a new leader who will be Prime Minister within the week. The 1922 committee is made up of Tory backbenchers, and their chairman, Graham Brady, says possible candidates will need the support of at least 100 MPs. There could be 3 candidates, but this is a party divided. Some want Rishi Sunak to move into number 10. He finished second in the previous leadership contest. Others are calling for the return of Boris Johnson, ousted in July, but a new poll shows 32% of party members want him back in office. And there are reports both men will throw their hats into the ring. But the opposition leader, Keir Starmer, says no Conservative can fix the damage done by this government, and he's demanding an immediate general election, as are the Liberal Democrats. And Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says a general election is now a democratic imperative. But the Tories are intent on carrying on. The party, not the British public, will select the next Prime Minister, the 5th in 6 years since Brexit. Vashi?
Thanks, Abby. The CBC's Abby Guhathasan in London. There is no shortage of reaction to Truss's resignation just 6 weeks into her tenure.
It's just a cycle of rubbish, and they replace rubbish with more rubbish. None of them are fit for the job, so yeah, I think we need a general election.
It's absolute chaos, and the impact it's had on ordinary working people in this country. You know, seeing our bills go up, seeing our mortgage go up. So people are really, really suffering in this country, and I think that's the real story here.
In this country, we have an unelected head of state. Now we have an unelected government. That's not democracy, is it?
Calls for a general election, as Abby reported, are growing in the UK as the Tories prepare to choose their 3rd Prime Minister of the year.
Well, what a mess. And this is not just a soap opera at the top of the Tory party. It's doing huge damage to our economy and to the reputation of our country. And the public are paying with higher prices, with higher mortgages. So we can't have a revolving door of chaos.
Truss's resignation and the tumultuous nature of post-Brexit UK politics has world leaders weighing in too. Here's how U.S. President Joe Biden reacted to news of Truss's departure.
Look, she was a good partner on Russia and on Ukraine, and the British are going to solve their problems, but she was a good partner.
Are you concerned about the spillover effect of the U.S. economy, given the political and economic?
No, I don't think they're that consequential.
So let's find out exactly what this might mean for Canada. Ralph Goodale is this country's High Commissioner to the UK. He's with us live from London. Hello, High Commissioner. Good to have you on the program as always.
Very nice to be back with you, Vashi.
I realize in this capacity the amount of opining you can do on the politics that are unfolding in Britain before your eyes is likely limited. But prior to occupying this position, you spent a long time in politics. I guess I can ask you just pretty simply, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I think this situation is pretty unprecedented. It's one that certainly has created a huge amount of turmoil. It's dominating all of the news programs and all of the street chatter in the UK these days. But you know, the UK is a very strong, big, successful parliamentary democracy. The turmoil has undoubtedly been unsettling, but it is all being dealt with within the standard rules and norms of of constitutional procedure. There's no violent charge on Capitol Hill. So it's all unfolding within the rules of established democratic procedure, and I think we can be absolutely confident that the United Kingdom will address its problems, solve the issues, and carry on successfully.
I certainly take your point that the setup of Parliament lends itself to an air of continuity, certainly. But I wonder if it is at all unsettling to you or any of your counterparts, really, who are representing other countries in the UK, the degree to which there is some chaos, right? I take your point that obviously the system is set up as it is. There will be another prime minister, but the fact that there have already been 3 this year, is it unsettling at all?
Well, it disrupts some of the normal practices and procedures where you might have had meetings arranged with certain ministers and they're no longer ministers, or they're preoccupied with the current governmental crisis and can't give the kind of attention that you would like to issues that are probably of greater priority to us than they are to them. But this is a temporary distraction. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with British democracy, and that when you look at the big files that apply to the Canada-UK relationship, the support that we both want to provide to Ukraine, for example. The deepening of the security and intelligence and defense partnerships between Canada and the UK, the negotiation of a free trade agreement, the UK accession to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the pursuit of solutions to climate change, and both the issue of mitigation and adaptation. All of that is proceeding apace. And will carry forward because its importance transcends politics on either side of the Atlantic. So that important work of governance and governing goes forward, regardless of the superficial distractions that are interfering with some of the normal procedures right at the present time. But that will pass, and we'll get over this.
And let me just quickly, actually, if I could drill down into 2 areas of governance that you mentioned there. And the first is Ukraine. The UK has been particularly bullish in supporting Ukraine and providing lethal aid as well as humanitarian aid. I was noting today Russia's reaction, right? One of the, I think the foreign minister welcomed her departure, saying she was a disgrace of a leader who would be remembered for her catastrophic illiteracy. Former Russian president wrote bye-bye at Trust Liz, congrats to the lettuce, in reference to that now infamous live stream of who would outlast, could the lettuce last longer or Liz Truss? Is there some credence to the idea, though, that this does put a little wind under the wings of the UK's adversaries? Is there any concern, at least, where that is?
No, if you're being insulted by Putin right now, it means you're on the right side of history. The fact of the matter is Russia is so horrendously wrong in everything it has done in relation to Ukraine. It's a totally illegal war. It's a war of aggression. It violates every tenet of the United Nations. This is something that you would expect from that thoroughly miserable regime that preoccupies Russia right now. And if you're being insulted by them, it's probably a good thing.
I guess, though, I wonder if there's cracks, the potential for adversaries to perceive some cracks in the armor of the united nature of allies, maybe even not just where Ukraine is concerned, but more widely.
Well, we all have to be careful with this because the unity within the Western alliance, the UK, the EU, the United States, Canada, the vast majority of the membership of the United Nations, the NATO alliance, the Five Eyes, the G7, the cohesion and the effectiveness of those Western alliances has been absolutely extraordinary. and it is very, very important for that to be maintained and enhanced and carried forward with great vigor. And you can be absolutely sure that whoever assumes the Prime Minister's office in the United Kingdom in the next number of days will be absolutely dedicated on that point. They've made that clear amongst all of the political parties in the United Kingdom. There is no dissension or dispute whatsoever.
We'll just have to see who that is. Okay, High Commissioner Goodale, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Very good to talk with you. Thank you.
You as well. Ralph Goodale is Canada's High Commissioner to the UK. Truss's resignation, of course, comes after last month's disastrous mini-budget, which sent the British economy into a tailspin, as we've been discussing. Susan Lejeune-Dalgazec served as the UK High Commissioner to Canada from 2017 until 2021. She's the Secretary General of the International Order of St. John now, and she's in London. Hi, Ms. Dalgazec. Pleasure to see you again, and great to have you back on our program.
Thank you for asking me.
I think many of us in Canada and right around the world are watching the turmoil kind of enveloping the highest levels of British politics, almost a bit stunned. Are you? And have you ever seen anything like it?
No, I've never seen anything like it before. It's quite unprecedented, not just in my lifetime, but I think in the last 50 or 60 years. It's been quite an extraordinary few weeks.
And how does it feel to watch it no longer kind of serving as a diplomat for the government, but to kind of watch from the outside in at this point? And what do you take from what has happened over the last, especially 24 hours?
So I think watching it as an ordinary citizen, almost for the first time in my life, it feels quite unsettling, and it feels quite, as I said, quite unprecedented. But I think the good thing is that things are happening now very fast, and that a decision has been taken by the Prime Minister that she is not the person to carry on. And I think now we will have our third or fourth Prime Minister in the year by the end of next week. And I think the speed with which she's acted is a good thing. But, you know, it's extraordinarily unsettling for the country. And it's had an economic impact on everybody who lives here. So I think what we need now is a period of stability, which will help us get back on track, both politically and economically.
And I do want to ask you about the potential for that stability in a second. Do you think, when you reference Liz Truss's decision to leave, the announcement she made today, what do you think it was the right one?
Yes, I do. I don't think she was going to be able to continue. I imagine it's been extraordinarily difficult for her. And, you know, the pressure on her has been incredible over the last few weeks. But I think it was very clear that she no longer had the support of her parliamentary party, which is absolutely essential for any Prime Minister. So I think it definitely was the right decision by her.
You have so many decades of experience in diplomacy, in diplomatic service. How would you be handling this at this moment? How would you be speaking to your allies to try and convince them that that stability you're referring to is actually still possible?
Well, I think the great thing about the system that we have, and it's a system that we share with you, is that a Westminster system of parliamentary democracy continues to function. We have an apolitical and impartial civil service, which continues to function. So when we have a new Prime Minister, we don't change all our senior civil servants and diplomats. So there is a continuity and a stability which is innately there within the system. And I think that's very reassuring for all our allies. And I think for the big things which concern our relationships with other countries, they have not been impacted in the same way as domestic politics have been impacted by what's happened over the past few months, because on the big international questions, support for Ukraine, our perceptions of China, our views on climate change, those are all issues which we continue to focus on internationally, whoever the Prime Minister is. So I think from an international perspective, from a security perspective and a defence perspective, we have continuity. Most of the impact has been domestic rather than international.
Do you think, though, if I could maybe respectfully challenge the notion, and I do take your point on the big issues, and certainly that is the case. We've seen successive prime ministers essentially take more or less the same position on those big issues that you highlighted. But the degree to which the domestic political environment has been affected, do you not think, is a bit unsettling, to use your word, for allies as well, to a certain degree? I know there is some stability and continuity there, but the degree to which the change and the pace of which that change has occurred in the UK has to be a bit unsettling for people who are working, or for countries working closely with it.
I think what's difficult is that all international cooperation depends on relationships, and when you have a cast of characters which is changing as quickly and as frequently as our own has been at the senior levels of government over the past few months, I think yes, that does pose a question and a difficulty for our allies. So yes, I mean it's not problem free. I think on the issues, the consistency is there. There have been a number of different people handling those big dossiers, apart from defence, over the last couple of years. So yes, it's bound to make things more difficult. You're right. Do
you think that, and yes, there's going to be a new prime minister, but do you think that prime minister, I'm going to be kind of blunt here, do you think they have a shot at sticking around for a long time? Even looking at the sort of party dynamics just within the Tories right now, then taking it a step back and looking at where they sit in the polls and the fluctuations in the polls that have resulted lately. How much of a challenge do you imagine is ahead of the next person who assumes that position?
I think it's a huge challenge. I think it's a huge challenge for that person as the leader of the Conservative Party, because what's been very clear over the last few weeks and months is that there are significant differences of opinion within the party. Liz Truss did not manage to unite the party in the way that the people who elected her hoped she would be able to. And I think for the new party leader, whoever it is, that will be their number one challenge, because without that party unity, any hope of the Conservative Party managing to enact legislation and get things through Parliament, have an ambitious programme of economic reform, which we're going to need, will be extremely difficult. And that's without talking about the prospects for the next general election, which, as things stand, is not for another couple of years. So there isn't an immediate election in prospect. But yes, there is a huge challenge for whoever it is politically, and then that's without talking about all the huge challenges, policy challenges that they will have in their in tray when they take over next week.
Do you worry that some of the best candidates or most qualified ones will be dissuaded because of the chaos that awaits them, or potentially awaits them, to be fair?
I don't think so, because I think the sort of people who go into politics go into it in order to get involved in difficult issues. And I think there are already a number of very serious candidates who have more or less suggested that they will be in the field to succeed Liz Truss. So I'm not too concerned about that.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate your time and your insights as always. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.